You are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
¿Cómo están, brother? This is the Lineman Lounge. I'm Mike. That is Evo. We are back. It is another Sunday night, and we're going to bring you a live mock draft. My man, Evo, welcome in. How you doing, bro? How's the weekend treating you?
It's going good, man. Nice weekend. You know, it's rough living out here in Arizona where we're in the 80s and low 90s and stuff. It's just getting a little bit too spicy out here for me. But yeah, doing good. We're super happy to be here today so we can go into our CPA corner. And, you know, taxes are due tomorrow. So we're here to give you advice today instead of football advice. So we're going to go over how to file your taxes. So, but no, for real, glad to be here. Glad to be talking football. We are so close to the fucking draft. The draft on the 25th. You know, we got 11 days basically, and you know, one more show after this one before we get into our actual draft show, where we'll be live streaming, not actually showing you the draft because that would be illegal, but yeah, watch along, if you will, where you can watch me partake in taking in tons of libations. I already have the day off from work the following day, and
smart man.
It's gonna completely ruin the diet I'm on. So looking forward to that. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, man, I'm very excited. So we're gonna do a mock draft tonight. We're still trying to hammer out guests for next week's show to make sure that we get another quality mock draft in with some people from other podcasts, and then after that, we're going watch along live stream. You're going to be doing the libations. I might have a couple of drinks, but I'm not typically a big drinker nowadays. But you can guarantee I'm going to partake in some herbal essence remedies.
Me either. I went out to the bars last night. I had one tequila soda and lime because of the diet I'm on, and then about 5 waters. So I just don't drink a ton anymore regardless. And then I'm on just, you know, this heavy meat diet, no carbs, just carnivore up. So the 25th is gonna wreck my body. A lot of beer, and I've already committed to pizza for myself. So I'm probably gonna be feeling it the next day.
Friday's gonna be miserable.
Yeah. But hey, like I said, I got the day off, and I'll be able to recover while watching rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft.
Yeah, that's when actually I'll get to start enjoying the draft unless there's a big surprise. Browns, no first round pick, but we should be fairly active. Just traded another player away, reserve tackle for a 7th round pick. Andrew Berry just stacking up ammo to go ahead and maybe make a move on draft day. I mean that 7th round pick is not going to get us to a 1 by any means, but there's some moves being played there. I love Andrew Berry. I know you're a fan of that entire group of people that kind of have worked together. Cuesta de Fomenta's got you guys in a nice little position.
Yeah, it depends on who you're talking to. If you, again, listen to some of the Cardinals podcasts down here in Arizona, they like to just trash on the Vikings, being like, it was the dumbest move ever to acquire that 2nd pick because now everyone knows what you're doing. Well, everyone knew what we were doing beforehand, and it's not, it hasn't cornered us into doing anything, especially if you listen to Adolfo press conference earlier this week. Is, you know, they've got walkaway prices and they're not going to tank the franchise for a guy, and but they have multiple guys that they love, and they're going to, you know, not be risk averse with it. So that I think out of this, like, of course I want a quarterback more than anything out of the draft, and I've got 3 or 4 guys that I will be okay with at varying levels. But I think second to that is I don't want the Vikings to trade their pick with the Cardinals, just because I've kind of been going at them on their YouTube videos, this specific podcast, being like, which basically every comment on there is the same way. It's, you guys are acting like you already have the pick from the Vikings and that you're holding them over a barrel, and that, like, it's 3 first-round picks and then multiple other picks and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, they could do that with the Patriots. I don't know if they'll do that with the Cardinals. And then they could probably just try and wait till pick 5 with Harbaugh and the Chargers and send even less. But, you know, it's the way that they talk is like, oh, we are basically pillaging the Vikings on this. It's already a done deal, blah, blah, blah. And if it was a done deal, the trade would be done. So, like I said, second to wanting to get that quarterback is hoping that we don't do that trade with the Cardinals, because just to kind of stick it to their fans, or if we do, which again I'm okay if we do, have it be nowhere near the compensation that they're expecting. That would be funny to me. Like I'm fully prepared to give up a 2025 first round pick. That's okay. But uh, what they want and what they seem to think is absolutely going to happen is a lot more than that. And I would love to see it not work out in their favor and them be really upset that they don't get Marvin Harrison Jr. and they don't get all this draft return, this capital return.
That would be tough. That would be really, really tough. And I know their fans want Marv. Are we 100% certain that their front office wants Marvin, not Malik Neighbors? We'll kind of get into that when we do the mock draft. But actually, some breaking news. Producer Amber made sure I was tracking it. Scotty Scheffler gets his fucking second green jacket. Dude, this kid is on a fucking roll.
I don't think it's done yet, but I think because I was watching before we started.
Just finished up.
Like he finished. I think he was maybe he was the last group. Yeah, he was the last group. So yeah, if he finished, then he definitely won. But he was ahead by like 3 strokes or something like that. So
yeah, dude.
That's in green jacket. Didn't have to leave or pull himself out early for the birth of his kid, though. He said that he would, regardless of where he was at. Wife could go in labor at any point in time. So, but congrats to him. I was hoping for someone different. I like parody. So I was hoping for Sambo, Morikawa, or Homa. But
I had a bet on Brooks before the tournament started. Brooks fucking did classic Brooks things and blew up immediately.
That didn't work out. He didn't even make the cut.
I also put a homer bet on Tiger, because why the fuck wouldn't I put a small wager on Tiger? And then producer Amber had a pretty decent bet on DeChambeau, and it looks real good. But I tried to warn her, it's like Bryson is going to have a day where Bryson forgets how to play golf.
Yeah, the past 2 days, really, he just was not executing well, not getting greens in regulation, and it was rough for him. I mean, he still, I think, finished in the top 10 there, 6 or something like that, 6 or 7. But it's been after a good first 2 days with really terrible winds and stuff like that. Those first couple of days, he fell off a little bit, and that's too bad.
Yeah. That's okay. But that Scotty Scheffler gets that second green jacket. We had some UFC last night. If you haven't seen the knockouts, you can go check out our Facebook page. All the knockouts from last night are posted there. If you did watch, whether you did that legally or illegally, you were able to see a badass event. Probably one of the best UFCs I've ever seen. But I don't want to spend too much time on the UFC because I want to get into this mock draft, man. I think that's what the people are here for. And this one's gonna be a little shaken up from the last time we did one, especially with some big moves from teams like the Bills and the Texans. So do you want to start diving into a mock draft?
Yeah, let's get into it. The only other thing that we're gonna possibly potentially at all talk about with football is that we went through all these positions, did position breakdowns. The only thing we didn't touch on was special teams.
Oh yeah,
I brought it up to you earlier. I don't know. Did you look at any of the special teamers this year?
Dude, if there's not a guy that doesn't already have a badass nickname before he shows up to the combine, I'm not paying attention to the special teamers.
Well, the one name I will throw out for the fans that I actually brought up in previous episode, who I'm a big fan of, is Iowa Hawkeyes punter Tory Taylor, one of the Australian punters out there. The guy's got a cannon for a leg. He's the next Ray Guy potentially. So if you can get him in the 7th round, I think that'll be a good addition to a team, especially with the changes in rules. I think your punter actually might come into play more for your kickoffs, and your kicker might just be used more so for field goals. Like I think it could change things up a little bit there, but
it absolutely could. And I don't want to derail the show, but it could also mean that Matt Ariaza could be back in the league at some point very soon. Considering all that is done with.
Did sign with a team recently, I believe. Maybe the Chiefs or something like that. I can't remember.
Maybe it was. I don't know if that's a real report or if that was a fake report.
We'll do a quick look here. He's Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, so he's back in the league already. Yeah.
Yes. So good for him. After kind of beating some charges allegedly, We don't really know.
Yeah.
But either way, we're here in
Let's
our
not
mock
talk about
draft
that. Let's talk
simulator.
about mock draft.
Yeah, on PFF. Now, before the draft starts here, do we want to do a trade with Chicago?
All right. So I'm not trading Chicago's pick. And are you going odds and I'm going evens again? Or do you want to flip flop?
Well, if we're running it like last time, I was odds because my Vikings pick on an odds pick and you were picking evens. Whatever you feel comfortable with, man. I'm willing to go with whatever here.
So let's go. I'm gonna go with the odds this time.
Okay.
And we're gonna switch it up because I don't think it's gonna matter. I believe you will still be picking that that pick for your Vikings when you trade up to, I'm guessing 4. Because that's probably what's going to happen. But I'll go odds, you go evens. Trades are allowed. We are picking as if kind of what we would do, what we think is in the best interest of this team.
All righty. Well, with that, you're up. Pick number 1.
Pick number 1, I am going to take the de facto number 1 pick for probably a while now. Caleb Williams has been the guy. He's not my number 1 quarterback. If you guys go back and watch our quarterback breakdown, my favorite guy is Jaden Daniels, but it's too much. It's too risky for Chicago to do anything but take Caleb Williams. They can't trade out of this spot. They have to take him. The only thing that would change out of it is if they for sure know that Caleb Williams will not go there if he is selected. I don't think that's on the table, so Caleb Williams is the pick.
All righty. Next up, I have the Washington Commanders. It is absolutely going to be a quarterback. It's just a question of which quarterback, and it's kind of a flip-flop between Jaden Daniels and Drake May. Now, we're doing this as if we were doing it, right? And I am higher on Jaden Daniels as well, but I also think that this is what the team is gearing up for. They moved Sam Howell out of there, who was a teammate of Drake May. There's reports about they didn't want Sam Howell to be there regardless of whatever quarterback came in because he is such a fiery competitor, and they didn't want there to be that sort of conflict where it's not just like friendly competition, but a conflict within the room, regardless of the quarterback. Either way, I think that this team is best set up with, Mariota being the backup and whatnot, to have Jaden Daniels be the guy. That being said, if you go back and listen to our quarterbacks episode, Drake May, he is the biggest boomer bust guy for me. He scares me a lot because you see so much of, I don't like using he's like a Josh Allen type of guy, but in reality, he's got the arm talent for it. He's got the ability to be a thrower like a Josh Allen, but he has those mechanical issues. And if a team is able to stash him away for, a year and work just on those mechanical problems, you could get a guy that ends up performing like a Josh Allen or something like that. And you would hate to pass on that. And then worst case, you end up getting someone like a Trubisky or Carson Wentz after the injury, which is always scary. But for me, I'm going with the guy that I've got rated a little bit higher in Jaden Daniels, dual threat guy. Really nice touch on the ball. So Jaden Daniels, he's going to be pick number 2 for Washington. And that brings up the Patriots there at number 3 for you to go, which will be interesting because we're doing what we would do here, right? And my 2 cents on this one for you is I don't know if I take a quarterback here again. Like it's probably what we talked about before, but
yeah, I don't think I'm going to take a quarterback. I would want to trade out of this spot if I'm the Patriots. I think the Patriots want to trade out of this spot because at this point, you have to really fall in love with one of these guys. Now, sure, maybe they love JJ McCarthy. That is also there's a weird dynamic that gets set up there, though, right? Michigan quarterback that kind of was overlooked, and then, but now in college is finally getting that. Yeah, like it's a weird thing. So could JJ McCarthy make sense here? Sure, but this team has so many fucking holes that they're not even close to competing with a quarterback. So I'm trading back here.
And look, if we look at these options for these first round pick quarterbacks, we know Chicago's taking one, Washington, maybe the Patriots, Giants are potentially looking for a guy. And then you jump down and the next closest one is my Vikings. and then you got Broncos and Raiders. And out of all those, I would say the Vikings are probably the best set up. Like they're a complete offense ready to take in a quarterback. Chicago's not too far behind. I mean, they've got a good supporting cast there now, but you also have a team that has not really had a culture for the past 20 plus years. You've got a defensive head coach and a new offensive coordinator that, just hasn't worked out super well. A lot of how these quarterbacks fare is going to be the situation. Washington is a rebuilding franchise, but they traded away their only real competent possible spot starter. Yes, you have Mariota there, but you don't want to see him in there for more than like 2 games like at a time. So you're probably starting whoever you take there, in this case being Jaden Daniels. The Patriots, I feel like if they start whoever a rookie is day one, that guy's going to be ruined. And you look
He's
at
gonna die.
what happened with Bryce Young. Bryce Young may be good, may not be good, but we don't know because he's just in such a shit situation. Giants, that offense again is without Saquon, and yeah, you got a decent coach there, but I don't like the receiving options and stuff there. It's a tough spot too. And Broncos, like, not so good. The Raiders would be interesting, but it's a tough spot. So I can see why the Patriots would say, hey, like it's a tough call. Either you take the quarterback, but you have to be 100% committed to stashing him for a year and try to build that team, or you can fall back and work on building your team, and hopefully by next year or the year after, there's someone in the draft that you can go out and get. I'm interested to see, though. You're saying you want to trade back here. What team are you looking to trade back with?
So at this point, I don't want to trade too far back because I still need an absolute premier talent. So I'm looking at potentials of the
I would
Giants.
like you, as the Giants GM, I would be willing to trade up to this spot.
Yeah, I feel like the Giants make the most sense because me going down the 6, I still have basically my pick of one of the top 3 wide receivers. I can get the best tackle in this draft there. I can still take an edge rusher, even though I don't need one. I could get Joe Alt right there and really fuck the Titans.
Yeah.
So I'm down the trade back right there. Do you want to talk compensation?
Sure, if you want to. I think, it'll be interesting because the Patriots are talking about they want a boon of picks, but that's probably to move back with someone like the Vikings. But if the Giants, so an interesting situation here for the Giants, we've talked about this before. Daboll and their GM are on the hot seat right now. If they don't succeed this year, they could very well be gone. Moving up for a quarterback might give them a little bit of an extended future, but we're not too sure. But because it could extend their future a little bit, I think that they're willing to be aggressive, because at the end of the day, if they make this trade and it fails and they gave up future draft compensation, they don't care because they're not there anymore. That's why some of these GMs could be all in.
How many years does Daniel Jones have left on his contract?
I believe
2.
I believe 2 years, but after this year, you can get out of the contract with minimal dead cap hit.
So if I'm the Patriots, I would take Daniel Jones a 1 and a 3, because now I have a quarterback that I can get into a new system, give him a new opportunity, see if he has anything, and I'm getting some compensation back. I don't have to. And if I don't like Daniel Jones, I'm hitting reset again anyways in the future.
Yeah.
The only reason the Giants move up is to go get a quarterback.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. The 3rd round pick, Daniel Jones, that makes sense to me. I could see them having to throw in a little bit more, like a future pick of some sort. If you weren't going to put Daniel Jones with a 3rd in this year, I would almost be like, hey, a 1st round next year, like 6 in a 1st round next year, and then maybe a little bit of something else.
Oh, so I want Daniel Jones, your 1 next year, and a 3.
Oh, the 3 this year or 3 next year?
To go from 3 to 6, I want I'll take a 3 this year. That might be a little rich, but I would love a 3 this year.
And look, like I was saying, this is aggressive for the Giants to do, and it's overpaying, but this is the quarterback tax, and they're desperate. Desperation is a sneaky cologne, but when you are in New York,
off of Daniel Jones's contract. Don't forget that. That is a positive for the Giants.
Yeah, some of it.
But that is also a plus that help. They're going to have to give a little bit more compensation if he's a part of any package.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down with this. Now, would you want to kick back anything as the Patriots, a late round pick, just to keep the Giants fans from
I'd give you a 5th.
rioting? All right. I don't know what number that would be. We got
That would be
137.
Where am I at? 166 is. Oh no,
That's for the Giants.
137. Yep, 137.
I think they might be willing to do that. That's a bit of a big gap between 103 and 180, but at the end of the day, the Patriots are getting another third round pick. And there is a decent drop off. So look, yeah, I think this trade makes sense. It is aggressive. The Giants are overpaying, but they're going to get a quarterback and trying to extend their future. So if you're down with it, we can execute.
I mean, is it saying that it will accept it? What's the acceptance rating there?
Oh, it's saying the trade will not be accepted, but that's because the Giants are overpaying so heavily.
So that would make sense.
Yeah, but that's PFF simulator. It's one of the issues with it is that it doesn't take into account things like quarterback tax or aggression.
You know what? Fuck it. We're making the trade. Let's do it. That's it.
Alrighty. As the Giants GM, I'm okay with this because as the GM, I'm trying to extend my future. All right. So Giants are on the clock, and I'm assuming they're going for a quarterback. Which quarterback are you thinking here?
So at this point, they are going to be looking at Drake May. I don't think that they're going to be thinking JJ McCarthy. Let's bring JJ in. I know teams, you're getting high on JJ McCarthy. I think that it's weird. I think that there's teams that still really like Drake May, and Drake May has that, Josh Allen type feel for some people playing in that same division. I could see them making the pop there. So I'm going to go Drake May. I know he's higher on a lot of people's boards than McCarthy.
Yeah, and if you go back again to our quarterback episode, like I think both of us talk a little bit negatively about Drake May and some of the concerns that we have. I still have hope and think that he could be a good quarterback with the correct coaching and whatnot in the correct situation. And that's why, I'll be honest, I feel comfortable with Jaden Daniels, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, or Michael Penix for my Vikings. I think any one of those guys dropped into our system with the talent around them and the coaching that we're going to have there have a reasonably good chance to succeed. And so like Drake May still intrigues me. He scares me a lot, but he still intrigues me. So I think the Giants going after Drake May, that he makes sense there. I mean, for the longest time, he was considered like a lock for the number 2 quarterback. And there's a reason for that. The tools and stuff are there. Coaches feel like they can coach out some of those issues, as coaches always will. So, all righty. That brings up pick 4 with the Cardinals. And, they want a lot in trade compensation for this pick. I don't see him moving off Marvin Harrison. They want Larry Fitzgerald. The amount that they're going to want to move back. And honestly, I think that the Giants moving up to pick 3 kind of sullies their market a little bit. If the Patriots move back to pick 6, yes, they could potentially sit and take a falling player like a JJ McCarthy or something like that. But I think that they're moving back in order to build their team, not necessarily get a quarterback. They might get a guy to try to build in the second round or something like that, or third round, try to grow them and not have them start right away, because you've got Daniel Jones and Jacoby Brissett there now. Those are going to be your starters this year. And you want to build a team around them. So it kind of hurts the trade market there for the Cardinals, because now you just have the Vikings at 11, Broncos at 12, Raiders at 13, and who's going to be super aggressive for it? And, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said they got walkaway prices. I don't think that he's going to give what apparently has been reported, that Monty Ossenfort wants 3 first-round picks plus some extra in order to move. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be my pick here. It's what the fans there in Arizona want. They want their next Larry Fitzgerald type. So I'll let them move back, or not move back. They'll stay there. They'll take the guy and keep their fans happy.
All right, taking Marvin Harrison Jr. All right, my pick again with the Chargers. And now this is another interesting opportunity. I could see this as a potential trade back, especially if a team is starting to get nervous, like the Vikings. They want to go up and get their guy in JJ McCarthy. Because if the Patriots stay at 6 and they get the extra compensation and JJ is still there with a need at quarterback, it would be tough for them to probably pass on him twice.
It's possible. I'm the Patriots. I can't tell you what I would be doing there at pick 6. Yeah. I'm going to let you, even though I'm the Vikings fan here, I'm going to let you completely take over and decide what happens with this, because me being a degenerate, I've run so many scenarios with my Vikings that I've found comfort in many of the different ways that the draft has fallen for my Vikings. So you go ahead and do what you think is best here.
So this team is really good, but they don't have any weapons. I mean, do you really want to move farther back? Malik Neighbors might be the best wide receiver in this class. And by a lot of people's estimation, he is, and he's sitting right fucking there.
Mhm.
I'm just pulling the trigger on Malik Neighbors. That makes the most sense. That
Alrighty.
helps this team win immediately. I don't know. I mean, trading back, you can maybe get into that second tier of wide receiver depending on who you're getting, on who comes up. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
going Malik Neighbors.
I think the question then becomes, does Harbaugh really care about the receivers or not? If he trades back, he's probably looking for more of your foundational pieces, offensive line, things like that. But theoretically, by trading back, you get a little bit of extra capital here or there. You can try to move back up and jump over someone like the Bears or the Falcons to get a Roma Dunze that would then probably be falling at that point. Um, which could absolutely happen because they don't have receiving talent there. But I feel like if he's going to take a receiver, he'll stick and pick. If not, it'll be a foundational type of guy like a Joe Walt or a Lineman or something like that. Or if they want to get really frisky, a Brock Bowers. But all right,
That could be.
so Patriots are up on the clock, and I'm
Yes.
I'm I'm not going quarterback here. Look, if I'm trading back, I would have to have traded back somewhere with like the Vikings, and then if a McCarthy is sitting there for me, then I'm willing to go for it. But if I'm trading back just these couple picks and getting, some extra, and I got a quarterback in that trade, then I'm going to continue to ride with the quarterbacks I have on there and try to build a roster around them. Look, so far right now we're talking about 2025's draft class having no good quarterbacks in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we've had situations going into that next draft where it's like, oh, a Joe Burrow wasn't expected to be a first round pick, and then he becomes the number one overall pick, and it's absolutely worth it. Um, there will be guys next year probably who are going to be looked at as top first round options, and if the Patriots are going to be as bad as they potentially could be, those guys could be there. Um, I am of the mindset that with this move back, they've got to go with a foundational piece. That's going to be Joe Alt for them. That is going to fuck those Titans.
Yeah. I kind of thought that when I brought that possibility up, you're like, oh yeah, I'm definitely fucking the Titans right here.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is they could fuck the Titans here, or they could drop back again. Like if someone wants to, like
That's
the
true.
Titans doing a one spot move up, they could just get a little bit extra. It depends on what the Patriots really want because they're probably going to have multiple guys on their board right here that they'd be willing to take. But for me, I'm not going to continue to trade down with the Patriots, even though they absolutely could and maybe should with how many holes they have on this team. But I'm taking Joe Alt here. It is definitely screwing over these Titans, and they're going to get their left tackle there.
Yeah. So that puts me as the Titans on the clock. And with the guy I really fucking wanted off the board, I go into scramble mode. I'm looking for trade partners. Probably not going to find anybody at this point who's going to come up with something that I really want, unless they're going up to get Roma Dunze, who's exactly something I need and would want on this fucking Titans team. So Titans are going to stick pat. They're going to take Roma Dunze here, and try to improve the offensive weapons around a young quarterback that is going to need support any way you can get it.
Alrighty. Yeah, I think the Vikings would be willing to trade up there. It's would they give up 11 and 23 because we don't have a second round pick, we don't have a third round pick this year. So if you're giving up picks this year, it's going to be fourth round or later, and then next year we don't have a second round pick, and we've got probably multiple third round picks. So that's kind of the area that you would be looking at. But they probably want future, or they don't want future draft capital. The Titans probably want something this year. Um, so if we gave up 11 and 23, the Titans would have to be kicking back more to us, I think, than just that seventh overall pick. The only question would be is if there's calls coming in from the Broncos and the Raiders, because now it's within reaching range for both of those teams where a trade absolutely could happen.
It is. Now, the only reason I didn't even consider it, I didn't go with the trade is because at this point, when you start looking at the board, you got maybe one more like truly elite talent here in Brock Bowers. But rookie tight ends always are slow out the gate. So it's not a surefire thing with a rookie tight end. So all of my like top tier elite guys are probably now off the board. My blue chippers. So I got to stay there and I got to get one of those guys because if I move back, I'm going to need a lot more compensation.
All righty. Yeah, makes sense. Now, Falcons are on the clock here with pick number 8. Do we want to talk at all about like the Florio reports of the potential collusion and stuff?
Yeah, I kind of figured this would be a good spot for it because I could also see this the way our board has fallen. This could be a place where there maybe is a trade that happens if it doesn't already get swapped.
Yeah, and that's so the Florio report came out earlier this week, and there had been kind of rumblings about it, which I personally had tampered down from Vikings fans saying like, "Hey, there was collusion with the Falcons, signing Kirk Cousins, and they should be penalized, and the Vikings might get pick number 8, or they might do a pick swap." And I was like, we need to settle down on that. Now we've seen a little bit of history with that, last year between the Cardinals and the Eagles, and the Cardinals ended up giving picks over to the Eagles for tampering to get Gannon. Technically, we've seen some of this stuff in the past. Florio brought it up again, though. Like, we haven't seen it with this high enough caliber of a player being a starting quarterback, getting $50 million a year on these contracts, and to have it be as blatant and obvious as it was, where Kirk is in his press conference, not understanding that he's actually just saying, like, yeah, I met with the trainers and stuff like that ahead of time and things like that. And even I didn't understand this, like, the fact that Kirk was potentially talking to Kyle Pitts about number swaps and stuff like that, players aren't allowed to do that because it's considered recruiting for your team. So they're not supposed to even technically be doing that. Now, I'm sure that happens a lot more often because you'll see, guys go on Twitter, be like, "Hey, come hang out with me here. Like, it's a good spot." But I mean, the talk of potential number swaps and things like that, Florio has brought it up that there could be a potential swap of pick 8 and pick 11. And that maybe that's why the Vikings haven't made a final trade up to get into the top 5 for a quarterback yet, because they're still waiting to find out if the league is going to force a pick swap. And if that happens and the Vikings get up to 8, like the capital that they have, I don't think that anyone can beat them at that point without giving up the entire house, farm, and everything. I still personally, as a bit of a pessimist with these sorts of things, don't expect that pick swap to happen. If anything, I think that the Falcons could be penalized, but I don't know that it will be necessarily to the direct benefit of my Vikings. That being said, if the league ends up saying like, yeah, do that pick swap, I'll be super happy for it. I mean, it was within a week, I believe, of the draft when last year the Cardinals had to give picks over to the Eagles because of their tampering. So we're on the same sort of timeline and projection that if there's going to be some sort of repercussions against the Falcons involving picks, it has to be done before the 25th. So you could expect to potentially see something about that sooner than later. And Florio, as wild as some of his reporting is, he does have sources within the league. He does have people that he talks to. So, maybe he's hearing rumblings and trying to get ahead of it and talk about what's going to happen. Either way, we're not necessarily going to simulate that this time. But as the Falcons, I'm looking for a defensive player here. I don't have Rome Odunze on the board anywhere, which that would just create some sort of an offensive powerhouse there if we were able to bring him in. I could go after the best defensive player on the board because you need help all over their defense. Or if I move back, I can probably end up getting one of those same defenders that I'm looking to get. So as the Falcons, I'm looking to trade back, and I would like to trade with those Vikings. Now, you're in charge of the Vikings right now.
Yes, I am.
What sort of trade compensation would you be looking to do? And look, that's the first trade that they're looking to say would happen here on PFF. If the Falcons were to give up 8 to the Vikings, assuming for number 11, what else would the Vikings have to give up, do you think, in order to make this work?
I believe trade is lopsided. Okay, a third next year.
A third next year.
You don't need to do much at this point for the Vikings to go up.
Now, this is where I would caution is that the Broncos at pick 12, they don't have a ton this year, but I think that they would give up their third this year or potentially even next year's first. If Sean Payton is crazy and wants to go get his guy, they could get aggressive with it like that. That being said, I don't think that the Vikings are going to trade 11 and 23.
You guys have a 3. You got 108 this year, right? Or that's the beginning of the 4th?
Yeah, that's the beginning of the 4th round this year.
Okay.
This is what I would say is I'm not the Vikings GM, But as a Vikings fan, if I were to give up 11 and 23, I'm looking to get back at a minimum Atlanta's third. But that's
Oh, I'm
only
trying
because
to
I'm
not,
being
as the
aggressive.
Vikings, I'm trying to fucking not give up both of my first at this point because the guy I want has started to fall, and I don't have to go that far now.
Yeah, and I would get that. It's like I said, we did a aggressive trade up though with the
That's true.
Giants to go up there and get May. And the Vikings are going to be willing to be aggressive in this one. And if there's other people behind them, specifically the Broncos, I think are the crazy ones that you can't really keep track of. I could see that happening. Now, if you want to do a different trade scenario here, I'm all for it because as a Vikings fan, if I'm able to keep 23, I'm jonesing for that.
So they got 12 and 76. The Broncos do. So they could come
Yeah,
in. Broncos would come in with 12 and 76 for sure, which would I'd beat 11
they're first
and
and they're
108.
third. Yeah.
Uh okay, so this is what I think is fair, puts me above compensation that the Broncos can give or that would be willing to give 11-108 in next year's third.
Okay. And I think that the Vikings would do that. That's actually 98% chance to be accepted. So it's not incredibly lopsided either.
Yeah, I like that. I would go with that.
All righty. As the Falcons,
And
I'm willing to accept that.
if Quessy has caps on things that they're willing to do, I don't know if how much he's willing to squeeze out of that. So yeah, that works. Let's make that trade.
All righty. Completed.
Oh, hi, baby.
Vikings are
Is
up
it?
on the clock.
Oh
And
no.
I think we're both probably going to go the same route, regardless of which one of us were to select here.
Yeah. So it's your pick, correct?
Yeah, I'm picking the evens, and now I
Love you,
got my
girl.
Vikings here with an even pick. So I got to go with JJ McCarthy. I'm not touching Bo Nix again. I look if the Vikings actually do take Bo Nix, which some mocks have had us recently taking Bo Nix as high as 11. If we take him in the first round, I'm going to be upset. If we take him in the second, I'll be upset that we weren't aggressive in the first to get someone else. Penix would be a guy that I don't want to take at 11, but I would be more comfortable taking him at 11 than Bo Nix at 23 even. So,
Yeah.
but if McCarthy's on the board here, but look, McCarthy to me just feels like such a fit with the Vikings. Like he's a passion guy, he's a winner. Kevin O'Connell can mold this guy really well. Like I see McCarthy being able to start midway through the year for this team. He's definitely has a lot of things that he still has to work on and fix, but KOC's the guy to do that. But I don't see any other option here other than McCarthy at this point. Vikings, if they're trading
Agreed.
up like that, they're trading for McCarthy. All right. Vikings get there. Quarterback of the future. You are back up on the clock here. Number 9, Chicago Bears.
Yeah, back on the clock without a premier wide receiver available on the board. Makes me probably switch over to the other side of the ball. Maybe Brock Bowers could be an option, but I don't see them pairing multiple tight end sets together with Caleb Williams at quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think they probably switch over to the defensive side of the ball. I got a guy from Illinois, Jerzon Newton, sitting right fucking there. It's really high to pick him though.
So it depends on which camp you're coming from, but Johnny Newton, I like him almost as much as Byron Murphy, depending on the scheme. And I think those two guys with a pin are first round locks, Johnny Newton and Byron Murphy. They're both fantastic. And so it depends on what type of defensive tackle that you want between Johnny Newton and Byron Murphy. So I could see him going there. I would say this though, and I bring this up every time. Including this pick, the Bears only have 3 more picks in this draft.
Yeah.
One of the guys that they would really want was one of those wide receivers. With them not being here and the potential of getting another one of these guys by trading down in the first and getting some extra, it benefits this team so much to look at trade downs.
God, who the hell would I want to trade down with here? What do they need? What do the Jags need? That's way too high to come up for interior. Actually, you know what? The Jags could make sense. That's a long way to go for a corner, though. Seahawks. Same thing.
Is there anyone that would be willing to jump up for an offensive lineman to beat the Jets to it potentially? Because I think, the Jets are looking at either a Brock Bowers, or I don't think they're going defense. I think it would be
At the tackle
offensive
spot,
lineman.
not really. I mean, maybe the Raiders are looking to go get a tackle because nobody's looking to draft interior offensive line here.
Yeah, I think it would, if a team is moving up, it would be someone like pick 16 or later that would be moving up for an offensive lineman there, unless you have a team that's moving up for a Brock Bowers or something like that specifically. But I don't think the Jets are a threat to take a defensive player. The Falcons absolutely are. So if you're moving up for a defensive guy, you're just trying to beat the Falcons at this point.
I can't believe I'm about to do this. But the Cincinnati Bengals would make a lot of sense if they were willing to talk for a Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Now 9 to 18, that's
a massive jump.
How much do you think that they would be willing to give up for that?
Nah, that's too much. Well, I don't know, man.
The Bengals have a lot of picks this year.
Yeah, and they are potentially going to be losing one of their biggest pass catching weapons after this year. So you get Brock Bowers for a year, get him worked into a system, and then when you lose T. Higgins, Brock Bowers can pick up some of that production.
Yeah. As the Bengals GM here, I could see adding 2/3 into this, both my 80 and 97, and maybe something in the 200s here, a 214 or something like that. Now, I don't know how the numbers would work out, but you're moving down 9 picks and you're picking up 2/3, and that's a 7th round pick, it looks like, or actually it's a compensatory 6th round pick.
224?
214 is a compensatory. So I think that would be where I'd start as the Bengals, is those 2/3. I don't want to, as the Bengals, I don't want to give up my second if I can avoid it. So I'm thinking 2 third-round picks, my 2/3, one of them being a compensatory, so it's a later one, and 214 compensatory 6th round pick there to move up to pick 9 to go get a Bowers.
Oof, I mean, that's a lot.
It's a big jump. But it works for the Bears. The Bears immediately get 3 extra picks, and they still have a second first-round pick in this draft.
Yeah.
And the Bengals would still be left with.
And the Bengals are not picking this many players. There's no shot. Yeah, that trade works. We'll move the Bengals up that far, I think. Well, I mean, it's your pick, right? You're the Bengals.
Well, I'm the Bengals, and that's so that compensation that I'm offering up, that's what I would be offering.
I mean, if I'm the fucking Bears, yeah, I'm taking that for sure.
All righty, I'm down with it if I'm the Bengals, and that would basically leave you now with the Bengals on the clock. I'm assuming Brock Bowers there.
Brock Bowers is off the clock. I mean, that's the only reason. Like, this is a dude that has the potential to be fucking spectacular.
Yeah. And in reality, look, if the Bengals are moving up to that spot, I could absolutely see Brock Bowers. They've been hurting for tight ends for years, but they also need a defensive interior guy. They also need offensive line help, and all of those options are available for them at that spot. So you could see him move up and then surprise someone and take a Johnny Newton, Byron Murphy, or Talise Fuanga, or one of those offensive linemen whoever is their choice, or their cup of tea. All right, cool. Jets up on the clock, and as the Jets, I'm looking for a guy that is I would have considered Brock Bowers here at this point, maybe, but at this point, you have to protect your investment in Aaron Rodgers. You have to keep him upright. I brought it up in our last mock draft that we did. You sign Tyron Smith to be your left tackle. You bring in Moses to be your right tackle. Both of those guys are old as shit. I would put money on neither of them lasting the entire year. So you're going to have other options out there. I want a guy that's got versatility where I think he can be a really good starting tackle in the league, but also has that flexibility to play guard. All right. So looking here at my offensive tackles, Fuanga is my favorite right tackle in the class. And he's a guy that I would consider there, but Troy Fautanu fits better for what I'm looking for here. He's got the ability to be a good left tackle in this league. I think he'll be a solid left tackle in this league, but you can easily start him off at a left guard spot. I'm going Troy Fautanu here for the Jets. Short that line. Fatano will be able to start day one along that line, and as needed can rotate out to tackle.
All right. And that puts me back on the clock with the Falcons, correct?
Correct, with the Falcons. Now
All
they
right.
just
So at
have
this
their choice
point,
of defenders.
yeah, and this is pretty simple. I need some defensive back help. I need a corner. My favorite corner in this draft, Quinion Mitchell, sitting right there. That's where I'm going. Quinion Mitchell to the Falcons. Trade back, get a little extra compensation, and you still get, in my opinion, the best corner. That's a good fucking day.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I love Quinion Mitchell too. He's my favorite cornerback in the draft. I still probably would have leaned towards edge rush help because I don't think that they really have any there. But Mitchell makes a sense. It's Raheem Morris is coming in. He's going to build that defense however he wants it. So it's not outlandish for him to take that cornerback there because they do need that help. All right, Broncos. Last time that we had the Broncos in our mock draft, we had a little bit of a wild trade scenario happening towards the end. I don't know if we're going to see any sort of repeats like that.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So the Broncos here, they absolutely need a quarterback. Again, they can't go into the year with Jarrett Stidham being their primary starter. But again, it's too rich for my blood to take a Bo Nix here, who seems like a perfect fit for that Broncos team. I don't know if they would consider taking Penix at this point. I don't know that Penix is a Sean Payton style quarterback. Like I said, I like Penix enough to the point that I would consider taking him at 11 if I were the Vikings. And he was the last guy sitting there, and I wouldn't feel terrible about it. But I don't know if the Broncos would.
I do think that there are some guys that are going to get drafted in this first round that don't belong there.
Yeah.
Bo Nix could be the very first one that goes.
Yeah.
Like he's starting to catch a wave that people are like not down on Bo Nix. Like the push to Denver is getting louder and louder.
Well,
Look,
Sean Payton isn't a young coach. Like, he's older. He likes what he likes. He needs guys that are already kind of veteran. If he was able to bring in a quarterback that he liked, in free agency, that'd be something different here. But there's no one out there that makes any sense. I mean, the Broncos absolutely need a quarterback. This is what we would do. I cannot take Bo Nix here. I am so off on Bo Nix being a first round quarterback unless it is at the very end, kind of like we did in mock draft 1.0.
Yeah.
So I can't do that. They've got big needs all over that defense. I'm going to be going with a defender. Question is just who here? Defensive back makes a lot of sense to me. But
I just took their best defensive back.
Yeah, they've got a lot of. They got rid of all those edge rushers.
Ooh.
My favorite edge rusher and Latu's there. I really don't want to do that to him, but I could see it, I suppose.
I don't know. Do you think Latu fits what they want to do there, though?
I don't know. I don't know that he does.
I feel like because I'd like to see him with his hand in the dirt more. And I think the Broncos are running a 3-4, right?
They were in the past. I don't know what type of scheme that they're actually running now. That they've kind of moved off of the Fangio stuff. I'm going to go with my second rated cornerback in this class. It's a close second. Cooper DeJean is my third, but depends on scheme where he could be higher. I'm going to go Terrion Arnold as a defensive back here for the Denver Broncos.
All right, Terrion Arnold.
Which is, I think, relatively close to what we did last time. They took a cornerback here last time.
Yeah, and then they got wild and fucking traded up everything they could to go get that quarterback for the 5th-year option.
Yeah. All right, now you're up with them Raiders.
The Raiders. All right. Quarterback is obviously a need. I couldn't move up. Who's in a rush now to get up here and go get a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix? I'm not sure anybody is. And I mean, I like Gardner Minshew. I don't know how they feel about Gardner Minshew, but I feel like Gardner could probably play a little bit for you and at least get you through this year and maybe even next year.
I mean, he did it with the Colts.
Yeah,
Played the
it
most of
was.
the year last year with the Colts and had a solid season for a backup coming in and playing the whole year.
So I'm probably looking at offensive line here. Oh gosh, let's take a look at these tackles. Like Fuaga, Fashanu. I really like JC Latham. It's a little high though. I think Fuaga fits, kind of makes sense here, and it's not. It won't feel like a reach, even though the Raiders are notoriously reachers in the draft. I would not be surprised to see them take fucking what the hell's that receiver's name? Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy,
Yeah.
man, that guy's gonna have some sort of a motor vehicle incident or something. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, oh man, we shouldn't laugh about that.
It's
However, it was
terrible.
funny. It's terrible though. We're gonna go with Fuaga.
All right. Talise Fuanga, one of my favorite players on the offensive line. I love him at right tackle, man. I think he's best in his class. So, and I think I've brought it up before. I picked for the Raiders last time, and he was an option for me. Like I love his style. I think he's a perfect fit with that Raiders team.
Yeah.
All right, Saints up on the clock, and Saints are kind of in the same position. Like, yeah, they need a quarterback, but they ain't moving off Derek Carr anytime soon. Wide receiver help, yeah, you could use it. It's a little bit rich right now for me to be going and taking that fourth wide receiver, but they need offensive line help. They got shit at tackle. Ramczyk, you don't know if that knee is going to survive, so you got to be looking at tackle here. So let me pull up these offensive tackles. I'm not as big on Fashanu as some are. Latham, I'm also not big on. But I do think that you probably just go with your best available option there, and that is Fashanu here. Like, I've had Fashanu drop in a lot of my mocks, but if you're able to make good on the potential Fashanu, he could be lights out for him. So I'm going Olu Fashanu for the Saints at pick 14. Help that O-line out some.
All right.
The next Andres Pete.
All right. So now Colts are on the clock. God, I want a receiver. I need a receiver really fucking bad if I'm the Colts. I've been dying to get another receiver. You know what? I think they might go here. This is a little rich, in my opinion. They could easily go with maybe a Cooper DeJean here, needing some defensive back help. But give me a guy that can fucking take the top off the defense a little bit. Let Pittman work underneath, runs really good routes. So give me a Brian Thomas here to help kind of give me a vertical threat that Colts team is kind of hurting for.
All right, Brian Thomas, that burner. All right, and then yeah, Josh Downs and Pittman can work the underneath there. All right, next up we have Seattle Seahawks. I'm on the clock. I believe last time we went with one of our favorite players, JPJ here. Couldn't help ourselves.
It's so rich though.
It still makes sense, but it is rich. Like, it is tough as much as we love that guy, and he does have positional flexibility on the interior. You have other guys like Graham Barton, who, again, PFF has him listed as a tackle. He's probably ascending in the league, but he has that interior versatility where he can play anywhere a long time. That's why Graham Barton kind of goes as high as he does in those, 20s or so. But boy,
also need some edge help here. You got guys Latu on the board, Dallas Turner, even though I'm not big on him. There's some names there that really help out that Seahawks team as well.
And I think I'm leaning towards defense on this one. Going to kind of go against what I had done previously, or what we had done previously here. But you got to think about who the new head coach is there. He's coming from that Ravens scheme. He likes those athletic guys where they can just turn any of those edge. It seems like they just always have good edge rushers there in Baltimore. I think he's going to try to do the same thing up here with the Seahawks. I think he's going to go over raw potential, and that's Dallas Turner here. Latu could definitely stay out there West Coast, former Washington Husky turned UCLA Bruin, but Dallas Turner, I think, is going to be more of the type of guy that they're going to want out there in Seattle. So Dallas Turner to the Seahawks on this one.
All right, Dallas Turner to the Seahawks. I like that. It makes sense. And then we're on to the Jags, which now, I mean, we're in a kind of in a similar position here. Need very similar help. Is it still too rich for JPJ? Yeah, it absolutely is.
They just
Even
signed
though,
that big extension with Josh Allen this week.
yeah, they just signed Josh Allen. So do you bring in a Leatu Latu that you need? I mean, sure, it would help. Cooper DeJean could be a fun fit down there. They obviously need some defensive back help, and I think that he could probably be very position versatile for that defense that still needs a lot of help.
Mm-hmm.
But God, the interior of that offensive line is so fucking bad. It's still so rich, but I'm going to do it because I'm a homer for JPJ.
All right, JPJ
Jackson
is the
Powers
pick
Johnson.
then.
Yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson
Alrighty.
going to the
JPJ. This is one
Jags.
I don't know I've seen yet, but yeah, pick 17 there. JPJ to the Jags. Solid dude. All right. Bears on the clock. Oh, penis. Excuse me.
There
Sorry
we
for
go.
cussing. Love that dude. We're just gonna keep throwing those little ones in here, I guess, in the
those are
show.
fun.
Tuesday. Bears on the clock. They moved back, got those extra picks. They could absolutely be looking for an offensive weapon, but now you've got Brian Thomas Jr. off the board here, so they're not getting number 4 there. Now they can start to look a little bit more towards that defense, and I think it's criminal to have both of the defensive tackles fall this far. I think it makes sense for them to go with a defensive lineman, either an edge guy to shore up alongside Sweat or interior defensive line help here, which I would have them have taken Byron Murphy up at pick number 9 as well. I'm going to go with Byron Murphy here. I hate it. I don't want Byron Murphy in my division going up against me. Jerzon Newton, Johnny Newton makes sense as well because he's an Illinois guy there. But I got to stay true to my board. If I was the Bears, I would want a Byron Murphy on my team. So I'm going with him.
All right, Byron Murphy it is. Oh, man. And on the clock now will be the Rams.
First time having a first-round pick in a long time.
Yeah, the first time they've had a first-round pick in a very, very long time because they go out, they make the trade for Stafford. Well, guess what they finally do with this first-round pick? I'm fucking pulling the trigger. They're getting a replacement for Stafford because they know he is going to be done pretty soon. Michael Penix comes off the fucking board here at 19.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that. Look, they have to make the investment sooner or later. And Stafford ain't going to be playing forever.
Listen, this is the first time you've had a chance to fucking pick a guy. Go get one.
I think it's the first round pick that they've had since they got Goff. So, yeah.
Why, dude?
Yeah,
Go get a quarterback.
That's insane. Awesome. I like it. All right. Next up, we got the Steelers. I'm on the clock. I still think offensive line makes the most sense here. Yeah, they could go defensive back, and if they do that, I would think Cooper DeJean is a perfect fit for him there. But that offensive line, I don't really like much of anything that they have along that offensive line. So you kind of go anywhere. And you go and pull up the tackles
based on the board.
Oh, well, who's that?
Listen, I'm not trying to help the Steelers in any capacity, and I hope they don't do this. But you have a super flexible offensive line who can play anywhere, and they need help all across the offensive line. Graham Barton should be the pick here.
Then Graham Barton makes a lot of sense to me as well. It's a little rich. So was rich for JPJ.
Because
if Jake or
interior offensive line guys,
if Graham Barton falls to the next pick, I feel like he's a solid pick up there for the Dolphins as well. So you could feel as Steelers, like your back is a little against the wall here. Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna go Barton here. We'll shake this up. We'll see what the Dolphins are gonna do to try to fix that line situation.
Yeah, they're not happy about Graham Barton going off the board there. I'll tell you that. But
I've heard some Dolphins fans being like, "Fuck whatever our other needs are. Doesn't matter. If Brian Thomas Jr. is there at pick 21, we're taking him just because McDaniels loves speed. He loves speed, and he's gonna go for speed regardless of anything else." And I was like, I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that's the case either. I would imagine that here at this spot, they're not even thinking offense. That offense is fantastic. They need to improve that defense a little bit. Maybe generate a little bit of pressure, interior pressure. I got Jerzon Newton still fucking sitting here. I got interior defensive line help that I need for the Dolphins. Going Newton.
All righty. Jerzon, Johnny Newton there to the Dolphins. Eagles are up. I can't see. Look, I don't know why it says they need wide receiver help. I think they have a pretty damn wide receiver group already, assuming they keep AJ Brown happy. But defensive back, they absolutely need. Now I've heard, like I said, I like Cooper DeJean a lot. I've heard some stuff about is he going to fit in Vic Fangio's system? I don't know why he wouldn't, but there's been question marks about that apparently. But defensive back makes the most sense for me. And look, I'm not as big on Kool-Aid. I'm not as big on Wiggins. But if I'm sticking to my board, Cooper DeJean makes the most sense as far as a defensive back here for them. And so that's where I got to roll Cooper DeJean. He's a very versatile player, play all over the place. So Cooper's the guy for me because you can find a way to use a talent like him out there.
All right, Cooper DeJean to the Eagles.
Yep.
That brings up pick 23. The Vikings are back on the clock because I didn't have to give up both my first round picks earlier.
They moved up, but they still didn't have to give up both first, which as a fan, I love.
That is great.
I don't expect that to happen, but man,
I don't think that's going to happen either. So got quarterback taken care of. I don't know why. Why does it say you guys need tight end?
I don't really know. So Hawkinson did have the ACL, MCL tear towards the end of the year. He's had surgery a little bit late in the offseason, but all reports are saying that he's recovering really well, faster than expected. I could see him not being available as late as week 8 before he can start playing again. That being said, if his recovery is going better, maybe he's there a little bit sooner. We do have Josh Oliver as our second tight end. He's more of a blocker, but he showed last year he can receive as well. And then Johnny Munt and Nick Muse are our tight end 2 and 3 if Hawkinson starts the year on the IR. Munt is a slight receiving talent. He's not anything super special. And Nick Muse, we haven't really seen too much of, but he's mostly a receiving guy, not a blocking guy. I don't know why they have tight end on there. I do like to try to, whenever I run my mock drafts, find a tight end a little bit later in the draft if I can, but it's really not that big of a deal for us. According to PFF's needs here, I agree. We do need guard center help. We do have Garrett Bradbury at center, but he's not long for the position. I think, this could be his last year as a starter, and then we move on. Both guard spots are definitely up. Our left guard right now is a guy that's never been a permanent starter at the position. He's been a swing tackle. And then our right guard, second year last year, former second round pick, but he has been okay last year. This first year was terrible. Last year he was okay. Maybe there's more development, but I think that either of those guard spots can be upgraded. Defensive interior, we don't have anyone really of note there, so absolutely could be looking in that spot. Defensive back on there for sure we need, but I'm not super off with our defensive backs. I think that once we're able to generate good pressure, we'll be all right. Edge rush, we did go out and get a couple edge rushers. We got Van Ginkel and we got Jonathan Grenard from the Texans, but those guys, especially Van Ginkel's contract is a little bit shorter and he's a little bit older. And that's why I think defensive end or edge rusher is still a need for this team. It's probably not a high priority, but then again, I don't think you're thinking that you're having a pick at pick 23 here and having a guy like Latu staring you in the face, or Jared Verse, who was very commonly being mocked to us at pick 11 early in this process. Now,
and I feel like there's some versatility there with Verse as well. That
I see Verse as more of a 4-3 end, but I mean he's good. You pick who you want to pick here. Latu is like one of my top.
That's the guy I know. That's the guy you like, the guy you want.
But it makes sense out here to go out and get a Nate Wiggins or a Kool-Aid as well. It makes sense, honestly, if Latu, Johnny Newton, or Byron Murphy are staring me in the face and I still have pick 23 as a Vikings fan, I'm banging the table for any one of those guys. If Latu, Byron Murphy, and Johnny Newton aren't there, I'm probably willing to trade back at that point.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was wondering if the trade out here makes sense because you guys don't have
a
a
second
ton of
or a third
picks
round pick.
next year. Like well, oh yeah,
So the
with the
Vikings
picks
don't
that
have
we
a
just
pick
traded.
after this until 129. So
Yeah,
if one of those guys wasn't there, I would be hoping that my Vikes would trade down into the second round and so hopefully pick up a second and maybe that fourth. We lost 108. So I don't think you're getting a second and a third, but a second and maybe a fourth or something like that to help out. If we get a second and a third, we got to kick in some of our later capital to assist with that. But
I think we're
those are
gonna
all.
go. We're going Leatu Latu here for you. I know you're excited about that, and honestly, I feel like it fits really nicely with the loss. I guess not the loss. It was kind of a foregone conclusion that Daniil Hunter probably was not going to be back. Now you did go out and make a trade, bring in another guy, but bringing in a Leatu Latu on the opposite side maybe give some options as pass rushers. I think Vikings fans would be very happy. I know you would be very happy with that.
If this scenario were to play out on the 25th, I'll be losing it on this channel. I'll be fucking 3 sheets to the wind. You might see some dick that we'll have to edit out because I'll be walking around no pants on, happy as fuck. This would be a dream draft scenario for me. We get the quarterback and we get a guy that I have ranked as in my top 3 of edge rushers in this class. I'm all about it. And look, I don't think you can ever have too many edge rushers. So defensive interior is a bigger need. If one of those guys is on the board, I'm taking them over Latu. But without them being there, I'm all about the Latu pick.
All right. There we go.
Cool. All right, pick 24, Cowboys up on the clock. They need, according to PFF, running back. That's not happening. I don't see it running back maybe being taken in the second round, but probably the third round earliest. Tackle, center, help, defensive interior, linebacker and cornerback. Not so much. Wide receiver. I don't know if there's a wide receiver I like taking here just yet. Though, and a guy
Jerry likes some speed.
Adonai Mitchell. What do you think about AD Mitchell? Not necessarily for the Cowboys here, but just in general, because I don't think we really talked about him too much on our wide receiver episode.
No, I mean, he's not a bad wide receiver. He's definitely in that second tier. I think he's got pretty good body control. He is a little bit like a CD Lamb light.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's really what they would be looking for in this scenario. I don't know. I mean, I don't mind him.
I mean,
I think about taking him here.
I do like AD Mitchell. He is probably my 5th wide receiver on the board next to a couple other guys that you'll more likely find in the second. I think AD Mitchell could absolutely go here in the first round. Typically a little bit later, but he's more of your all over, like do all type of receiver rather than just being like assigned to the slot, things like that. He's just a little bit too inconsistent at times, which is why he's not higher up on the board. But his games where he goes off, he fucking goes off. So I think someone really might like some of those skills that AD Mitchell brings. That'd be tough there with the Cowboys as well. I'm not a huge, I don't completely understand why they always have wide receiver there as a need. Then again,
because Jerry likes fucking wide receivers, dude. He likes going out and getting loud wide receivers, fat. Like he just that's all he wants. You give Jerry a brand new toy, he's fucking good to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with, I feel like, the smarter play here. I'm gonna go JC Latham. I'm not as big of a JC Latham fan, but I think he's got some versatility where he can play a little bit of guard if need be or tackle. But long-term support for that offensive line, which has been a big thing for the Cowboys. So JC Latham, I feel like, is a smart play there. I feel like it's too rich for a wide receiver at this point, and there's no defensive interior for them. And then the cornerback, they do have Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, you need cornerbacks can do a little bit more than them, but you still have 2 pretty good cornerbacks back there already. So offensive line support. And now you're up with the Green Bay Packers. Enjoy that, bitch. Excuse me.
Yeah. They need offensive line help. That's probably where I'm going to look to start with.
Let's see. Well, if they need help somewhere, typically the Packers like to select something different, like a 3rd round tight end.
Yeah.
Are there any 260-pound running backs out of BC available?
No, there are not.
None out of Boston College this year?
Damn. No. God, Amarius Mims, I am not super high on. But he's the best tackle left on the board. I don't know. Guyton. Frazier, that's too early. Even though I like Frazier. I like Frazier more than I like fucking Mims. What do I got here for D-line? The hell's left on the board?
So like defensive interiors.
Fisk.
Fisk makes sense. I think Chris Jenkins is a, I was surprised with how light Chris Jenkins was. And I'm actually surprised looking at this PFF board that they got Ruka Rororo higher than Chris Jenkins now. I think the next tier in line here for the defensive interiors is between Fisk and Chris Jenkins, with Jenkins probably beating him out a little bit. Just Jenkins is not, he's going to be more of like a 5 tech on a 3-4 line because of his weight. And I also didn't know Chris Jenkins' dad, 4-time Pro Bowler, like he's got the pedigree along that defensive line as well. I like Chris Jenkins, I like his production, but I think, saying defensive interior is actually not fully correct. He's definitely more of a 3-4, 5 tech, something like that.
Well, and that's and you know what? The Packers run 3-4. Oh, man, that could be a good fit for them. Chris Jenkins. Man. Oof.
I am surprised that look, I like Ruka Rororo. I'm surprised that he's jumped up that high, even over top of like a Brandon Dorless and stuff like that. Tavondre Sweat could have fallen a little bit because of the DWI recently.
Yeah, Tavondre fell because of the incident.
Yeah.
Which somebody's going to get a fucking stud when they get him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll say this too. They don't have it on here as a need. I think defensive back is a need for the Packers. You don't know what's going to happen there with Alexander. Obviously, they sat him a healthy scratch last year for fucking up a coin toss. He's one of the highest paid defensive backs in the league. L'Jarius Sneed, is beating him and stuff now, but Jair Alexander is expensive. He is getting a little bit older than I think people know. And beyond him, the guys that they have are excelling for their draft position and whatnot, but they might be reaching their ceiling already. I wouldn't be surprised if Alexander gets traded. Like if the Packers season does not go well this year, you could see him being a trade candidate and stuff like that towards the trade deadline, get that number off the books. And so defensive back makes sense to me here. Safety, I think that they need as well, but it's a little rich for me to be going after a safety at this point. If I were the Packers.
And I don't know if I want to go tackle here. I really don't want to go tackle here because I don't necessarily love either one of these guys.
You do need a Bakhtiari replacement, but it seems like
they've already had a Bakhtiari replacement because he hasn't fucking played.
Yeah, they like versatile offensive linemen as well, guys that can kind of play wherever.
I think I'm going to go Nate Wiggins here. You kind of talked me into their need at defensive back because I agree. The thing with Jair Alexander is going to become a problem going on in the future. I don't see that. Like if they don't play well, like really well, make the playoffs again, like there's going to be a big problem. So I'm going to go Nate Wiggins.
All righty. Nate Wiggins I like as a pass defender, but which is primarily what the quarterbacks are doing. His run defense is pretty shit. That's where, you could always get better. But again, the cornerback is there to defend the pass. So
I like Nate Wiggins more than I like Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Sure. All righty. Next up, Bucks on the clock. And whenever Latu falls to them in any of the mocks I do, I normally take him here. I think that they need edge rush help. Jared Verse is a guy that I think is falling too far here. I'm going with Jared Verse. I like edge rush help that he can provide there.
All right. Jared Verse. All right. And now we have Cardinals back on the clock. Yes?
Yes. Yep. From their trade last year with the Texans.
Yeah. So they got Marv early. They don't need receiver. Defensive line. They need a lot of help all over. They need linemen, a lot of them. I still like Frazier, but it's still way too high, in my opinion, to take him here, I think.
They could be looking at this pick as a luxury pick. A lot of people are
Yeah.
talking around pick 23 to 25 is when you start to go into maybe where the first round or first round graded players kind of end, and that's where you're starting to fit into a new bracket. And between picks, 23 to 25 to about 45 is a separate bracket for teams where it's not really you're not taking a necessarily value at that point. You're taking a second round graded player that fits your needs. So Frazier, is it a little bit rich here? Yes, but if I'm the Cardinals, I could try and get him at 35 as well. And that's definitely possible.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they would take someone like that here. Like they're trying to just build as good of a team as possible. If they're going to look at someone like the Lions, they said they're just going to take who they want to get a better team at that point. But
Yeah, but I think they can still get Frazier at 35, even if they don't go here.
yeah,
They do need defensive back help. I think they go Kool-Aid McKinstry here. I'm not a huge I like him at times on tape. Other times he looks like he's completely lost.
mhm.
But yeah, we'll go Kool-Aid there. Help shore up one of their needs, and then they can still possibly get the interior offensive line. They can definitely get it later on. Will it be who they want? I don't know. Frazier might come off the board here towards the end. Would the Lions do it? No, they might be all right.
Alrighty. That brings me up here with the Bills. Not gonna lie, kind of forgot about the Bills a little bit. Wish that we had traded up or been looking to be maybe aggressive to trade up to try to get, you know, a wide receiver because now they're without Stephon Diggs. Brian Thomas was a great candidate for them when Brian Thomas was still falling towards like pick 28. Would feel really good about that. But it makes sense that Brian Thomas is going even earlier. If I'm the Bills and I'm not able to trade up to get one of the top three guys, which I think that they're a sneaky option to try to go do that, and they have the draft capital this year to try to go up there and make that trade to get one of those guys, one of those top three, then a trade up to get Brian Thomas also makes sense. But at this point, like you kind of have to take a wide receiver. Could you trade back to get more draft picks and then take multiple wide receivers and take a bunch of shots on them? I could see that being an option too, but they do have a bunch of holes on defense that they really have to look at filling. So giving up too much draft capital or focusing too much on one position, it's not great. So look, I'm taking the next guy on my list here, AD Mitchell. Like I said, I view him as being a all around type of receiver. He's not just a slot or just an X or something like that. So AD Mitchell, they need pass catchers there for Josh Allen, someone to help out. So AD Mitchell will be the guy there. Or pick 29, you're up with the Lions.
All right, the Lions are on the clock. They're going to take a wide. No, they're not. I just remember every year for what it felt like a decade, first round, the Lions were taking a wide receiver in the first round.
Yeah.
They now have found a guy who can be their number one wide receiver. Didn't cost them a first round pick. So they can actually start to kind of build around this team.
They did still use a first round pick on Jameson Williams. So,
oh yeah, that's true.
but he's not a number one receiver.
He is not a number one receiver. Fuck it. You know, I'm gonna do it. I'll be the guy that drafts two centers in the first round for our mock draft. I took JPJ earlier. I'm gonna take Frazier here because the guard center flexibility for the Lions will be helpful. So I'm going Zach Frazier.
All righty. And look, this is a spot where I think that if somehow JPJ were to fall to that spot, he's a perfect Dan Campbell fit. We probably said this in our last mock draft as well,
I'm
but like
almost certain that we did.
Those two seem like they are just a match made in heaven. Where maybe the Lions get aggressive and move up to get him earlier on. Who knows? But all right, cool. Help solidify that interior. All right, pick 30, Ravens, wide receiver. I believe we went there last time as well. Offensive line and edge help. I still kind of like lean towards receiver.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think there's a guy that would fit what they do really well, and I hate it.
Well, if it's the same guy that I think we took last time, because my guy that I've been sending to him is Xavier Legette.
No, did we take? Maybe he did go there last time.
He might have.
Um,
I like McConkey there too. He's a good,
Lad
solid
McConkey, I think, is a really good fit
possession guy.
because he loves, like, Lamar loves throwing the ball in the middle of the field. He's not great at getting the ball outside on the numbers. Like, Lad McConkey gives him another piece inside. You can be working Adams in the seams. Like, it's kind of a nice fit, and it fucking stinks that it is.
Yeah. That's the thing I brought it up earlier, that the Ravens love their edge rushers too, though.
They do.
They just always seem to take edge rushers, always seem to find them and make it work. And there's a couple on here. Darius Robinson is a guy I'm high on, who is not as much of an edge rusher, but he's got that just interior line flexibility everywhere. Fits perfect with the 3-4 that they run out there. Chop Robinson, one of my favorite rushers in this draft, would be scary to have him out there. Stand up guy. Oof. I kind of like that. Like, I do think that they need another wide receiver out there to help out, someone to replace OBJ. But they picked towards the end of the second round, and they could find a receiver there. I think we're going to see the receivers drive up really quick. Like the ones that you really feel good about them starting, despite this being an extremely good class. I think, in these first 2 rounds, we're going to have close to 15 receivers taken. No, fuck it. I'm gonna stick with, again, what I kind of like here. I'm going with Darius Robinson. I feel like he's that fit for that team. Edge rush all along the line. He can still come off the edge some. He's just another one in a long line of solid defensive players for the Ravens. And look, I'm higher on Robinson than I think a lot of people are. Otherwise, it was going to be Chop.
Yeah,
I like Chop to see go.
I do not want to see Chop go there.
Yeah. All right, pick 31. San Francisco's on the clock. Now, this is where last time we had that wild shenanigans happen.
Yeah, because you don't love. I mean, I have Amarius Mims here. I don't love Amarius Mims. Are you an Amarius Mims guy?
I'm not like anti-Amarius Mims or anything like that. I'm not a huge fan, but I can see why, based off the traits or the physical traits, that you would be willing to go after him in the first round and then coach him up, because he is a physically gifted tackle who's playing on a very good team. But I think that he's just a little bit more raw.
I mean, you get into that Shanahan offense, you could be a little raw, but if you're a good athlete, you can learn.
If we're going a guy that's physical traits, I like Guyton better than Mims. Guyton is incredibly raw, but he's kind of that motivational guy that you really like, who will give you 100% effort all the time in order to try to better himself at his craft. Hasn't played tackle very much. He's the guy that, out of the two of them, I like Guyton better as a long-term prospect, even though he probably needs even more work and coaching. So
I'm gonna go with Mims here.
All right.
I'm going with Mims.
Cool.
Not a pick that I love, but I feel like could be a good fit in that offensive scheme. Obviously, it's not going to start out at the left tackle spot unless there's a story that I missed. Probably start on the right side, but I think he can play both sides. You can switch him over. But Mims did play right tackle, I believe, right, for a couple years. That's where we go back and look.
Yeah, he played right tackle every year.
Okay, so he was a right tackle. Yeah. So he comes in and fits right in. Yeah. Perfect.
People think that he can transition to be a left tackle in this league.
So I keep seeing different mocks with him or being talked about as being able to be a left tackle. I don't know if I like him there. But.
The switch is always scary. It's always scary.
Yeah.
When you're talking about someone like a Joe Alt, I don't want to switch him to the right side, but I am not concerned about his ability to switch to the right side. Whereas Mims, he physically looks, and his physical talent makes him look and seem like he should be a left tackle, but you've got to develop it. Look, if it's going to be a long-term development and you want him to be the left tackle of the future, then you start on that early and let it go.
As a Browns fan, I can tell you from watching with my own two eyes, taking a really good right tackle and moving him to the left side doesn't always fucking work out.
For sure.
So,
Alrighty. Well, that brings us to the Chiefs. Chiefs, I feel like the most glaring in your face need is a wide receiver, right? Rashee Rice, we'll see what happens with him. Arrested now for aggravated assault, having to do with that car crash and everything.
yeah.
He was the bright spot in the receiving core.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit dimmer now, not as bright. So with Rashee Rice out of there, like it just makes wide receiver feel like even more of a need here. And you just have a ton of guys. Like I really like wide receivers in this class, man. I like the wide receivers that are here in this end of the first, second round type of territory. And any one of them makes sense to me, from a Lab McConkey to a Franklin, Wilson, Pearsall, all top 4 guys here. I'm really into. I love Leggett too. I don't feel like he fits as well with this team for whatever reason. Just in my gut, I don't feel it. Now I just got to figure it. I'm going to take one of these 4. I'm just not sure who. I've taken Roman in a previous one, a really early one, a mock that I didn't post or anything. I had Troy Franklin going there because he makes a lot of sense. But Pearsall and McConkey are both just solid possession guys with yak capability, and it's kind of a coin flip to me there. I'm going McConkey.
I kind of like Pearsall better.
I do.
But
This is dealer's choice.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point you call Mahomes in the room and say, which one of these guys would you prefer to throw to? And he'll probably have an edge towards one of them. But I'll go McConkey here. They need possession. And that guy is a good possession receiver with a lot of good underneath route type stuff. And just a solid contributor. I love it. All righty.
All right.
Mock draft 2.0 complete.
Hell yeah.
Less trades than our first one.
Yeah. The first one got wild. We were just fucking trading everything that we could.
For sure.
We're going to see a lot of movement in this first round with as many quarterbacks that are going to be sought after. Anytime you have a class, there's a bunch of quarterbacks. That's when you see the most amount of trades. So, yeah, there's some interesting moves in here. Titans are furious that Joe Alt's not on their team. Your boys absolutely robbed the entire first round. And much like the Rams of old, fuck them picks. I don't need a first round pick again. We'll wait until next year.
Hey,
so
they got themselves Michael Penix. They're happy with it.
Yeah, they got Michael Penix, but I don't get a first round pick because we did that whole fuck them picks thing.
Yeah,
but we haven't won that Super Bowl yet. So
that's true.
Hopefully that will come around here very soon. But brother, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, like I just need to be clear. I fully expect that the Vikings will be aggressive, move up to get a quarterback, and that it's going to involve pick 23. If there's any way that we walk out of it with one of those quarterbacks that I'm happy with us getting, JJ, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels, and still haven't picked 23, it's gonna be a night to be tuned into us on here in the Lineman Lounge, because I'm going to have heart palpitations or something. It's
hell yeah.
We get canceled pretty quick or something off of YouTube because I'll be flopping.
Let's not do that.
I'll be super
not get canceled.
Yeah. I don't see any way of that happening, but obviously we found our way to it here in this draft. So anything's possible. Yeah. Thanks, Kevin Garnett. We did that, Jim.
All right. Let's get the fuck out of here. Guys, this is the Lineman Lounge. I'm Mike. That is Evo. We're back every week. If you guys want to interact with the show, go to Facebook. We have a Facebook group, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter at Lineman Lounge. You can catch any of our shorts on our YouTube, as well as the full episodes on our YouTube. And if you want to go to one place where all of our content is held, go to the NoSleevesNetwork.com. You can read our blogs, check out gaming channels, and all of the content that kind of comes around. So with that, let's get the fuck out of here. I'm Mike. That's Evo. Sorry for cussing. See you.